You do have to spend a lot of time reading. Read anything and everything that could be relevant. I mean, a lot of it is relying on your social networks, though, to filter the information. So I'm an avid user of Twitter myself. I use my social networks to help kind of pre-filter information. I also read a lot from technical journals, online and offline. More and more online, though. I would say the vast majority of the information I'm consuming now, probably 95%, is online. So that's probably the single best way. In fact, there's so much new information coming every day. Formal training, you'll struggle to catch up if you rely too much on formal training. I mean, that's not to say there isn't a role for certification for more specialised credentials from time to time, but in terms of staying abreast of the key technology trends, it's really just being a voracious reader of information.
Generally what we tend to do is follow the customers rather than the technology, and I think that's probably the more important thing for Seek. Understanding what the companies, the customers want, understanding where the opportunities are for us to move forward. That's very, very important. If you look at our customer base in terms of the paying customers, the advertisers, the recruitment agencies, all employers, and how they're starting to use technology in our space, again, very important to keep an eye on that. So really good examples of that. Most recruitment firms 10 years ago would manually process paper CVs, whereas most recruitment companies now are having fully automated systems that read the CVs, categorise them. I think one of the key things for us, and certainly one of our most important systems and one of our most important competitive advantages, is actually search technology. Not so much from SEO, Google, that sort of thing, but actually search. So we're using Microsoft's FAST platform, very advanced search technology, and understanding what relevance is for people trying to decide the future of their lives. Very, very important. But again, we tend to focus on the customer and then use the technology to match that, rather than keeping an eye purely on the technology set to try and work out opportunities from there.
First, I think, first and foremost, is to build a network of people that you trust. By people, a network, I'm not just talking about within Cisco. So I listen to people and talk to people sometimes, using my speech or whatever, but oftentimes it's through blogs and Twitters and so on. And I know a lot of people are very anti-Twitter and so on, but if you're listening to the right people, you can get an immense amount of intelligence. So the first thing I do is I look very carefully at who to listen to within Cisco and around the world, and I'm listening to them 24 hours a day. I mean, I'm not watching them all the day, but I'll dip into Twitter, I'll dip into my feeds, and so on. So that's a really important point. The second one, I think, is I read a lot. I spend a lot of time reading every single day, and that to me is generally inspirational. I mean, I'll have 4 or 5 books going on at the same time. I'll shut them down if they aren't going in the right direction. So I read a lot of books. I don't finish them all, but that keeps me, I guess, across a lot of things.
A lot of reading, that's one. Number 2 is attending not conferences as much, but more one-to-one invites or small groups of CIOs we invite. There's a lot of getting together for dinners, for breakfast, and just hearing about the new trends, technologies that the vendors are providing. And a lot of times it is a lot of work because it's homework. The IT field is just constantly changing, much faster than any other industry, I find. That's also part of the excitement, is that there's such new technology, and you have to love it. It's not a case of it's a job. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It's, you do a lot of homework outside of work.
I rely a lot on the architects to actually keep their fingers on the pulse of what's going on out there in IT land, and they do a pretty good job of that. So pretty much a divide and conquer approach. Personally myself, I find that the best way for me is reading, and also I've got a number of internet-based feeds that keep me up to date on those sort of things. So that's on the core technology side. The other time, I spend a lot of time actually figuring out what our global competitors are doing and watching how they're implementing systems in their own businesses. And I pay a lot of attention to that to make sure that we're not being left behind on the technology curve in that global steel business that's raging out there.